Well, hey friends, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Another Step podcast. You could call this episode 0. You could call this a pilot episode. Whatever you want to call it, this is actually the second time that I'm having to sit down and record this because the first time I got through in one take. I thought it was great. I was like, man, this is going to be a whole lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And then I started listening to what I said and I realized I forgot to introduce myself because not all of you know who I am. So this is me trying it all over again to start over and say, hello. My name is Kyle. I am a youth pastor. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a follower of Jesus living here in Columbia, South Carolina. And I'm so grateful that you have taken just a few minutes to listen to this. Now, here's what I want to do for just a few minutes and then we'll be done. Like I said, this is episode 0. This is the pilot. This is where I'm really trying to just capture you and get you to buy into episode number 1, which, guys, we've already recorded it. It's going to be amazing. I got to sit down with a really good friend of mine. His name's Travis. He is the general manager at Loveland Coffee here in Irmo, South Carolina. My favorite coffee shop. We have a running joke, and you'll hear it on that episode, that it's this podcast is sponsored but not sponsored by Loveland Coffee, which just means I drink a lot of their coffee purely because I enjoy it. And you'll see it show up in lots and lots of episodes. But I had the privilege of sitting down with Travis, and we talked all things fatherhood and faith and his journey into where he is in the coffee industry. And I'm probably getting way too far ahead of myself, but I just say all that to say that episode I'm so excited about. But the whole premise is that I wanted to sit down with people like Travis, people who I look up to, people who I admire, people who are succeeding in whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's ministry or business or being a dad or whatever that looks like, and find out what are the rhythms, what are the habits, what are the practices, what are the disciplines, what's their routine, and how does that help them become the person that they're wanting to be over a lifetime. You know, what are the little things that they'll do right now that ultimately will pay off in the long run and help them become the person they were created to be? Because here's the thing. Life is a very long journey. I'm thinking about decades. I'm not just thinking about days or weeks or months in front of me. So if something is important to me, like family, I'm thinking about what are the practices, what are the habits, what are the rhythms that I need to instill in my schedule, instill in my weekly routine that will help me to be a good dad and a good husband, and ultimately will help me to become the kind of person that I want to be over the long haul. So in our rule of life, that's the terminology that we use in the way of Jesus. We have a practice of Sabbath that we come back to every single week. It's a 24-hour time period where we stop working and we stop worrying about work. And we just say, I'm going to be present to the moment. I'm going to be present with my family and be present to God and just take a breather so that we can let our souls catch up to us a little bit. And that's just one of those little rhythms, one of those little habits that we instill into our lives that hopefully are forming us into a particular kind of person. Now, if you've been listening closely, you've probably heard me say several times, I'm a pastor, I live in the way of Jesus. I teach people in the way of Jesus. We're talking about Sabbath. You're going to hear a lot of that kind of language on this podcast because that's the world that I live in. That's the tradition that I'm a part of. But not everything we're going to talk about on this podcast is going to be explicitly Christian. This is not a Bible study podcast necessarily, though we'll probably quote some scripture. We'll probably sit down with some other pastors who I know who are living this kind of life that I find interesting. But I also know some people who are on YouTube and I want to sit down and talk with them. I've got friends that are business owners. I want to talk with them. And I'm hoping that through this podcast, you are able to listen in on conversations and just pick up little nuggets, pick up little pieces here and there, little practices that you can add into your lifestyle that will help you become the kind of person that you want to be over a long haul. A podcaster, his name's Tim Ferriss, wrote a book years ago called Tribe of Mentors. And basically what he did was he went through all of the interviews that he had and he looked through what are the rhythms that these people came back to? What are the books? He asked very specific questions and he compiled it all in a book. And ultimately a tribe of mentors is what I'm hoping to get out of this podcast, that over time we will have developed a tribe of people that are taking another step in the journey. They're just focused on what is the next step in front of them. What's the next step to becoming the person that they were created to be? And I'm hoping that it's a blessing for you, because I know it's going to be a blessing for me just by being able to sit here and have these kinds of conversations. So a couple of really quick housekeeping things. You will be able to listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever it is that you listen, Overcast. But you will also be able to watch this podcast. This will be a video-based podcast as well. I'm looking into my camera lens as we speak right now. This will be available on my personal YouTube channel. It's just my name, Kyle Holton. And all of these episodes, full length and little clips, will be available there. You'll be able to share them on social and all of those kinds of things. So as we get started, I'm just going to ask you to do a couple of things for me as we kind of get into this rhythm. If you haven't already, would you go ahead and just subscribe on podcasts and or YouTube so that you can stay up to date, so that you are automatically notified every time we post something new. I don't want you to miss a single conversation, because I really, really believe these are going to be incredible. But I also don't want you to just keep this for yourself. If you've got a friend who you really think would benefit from these conversations, would you just share this with them? Like, share the YouTube link, pull it up on Apple Podcasts, share it with them there. Like, I really just want to be able to get this to as many people as possible. And the fact of the matter is, growth on podcasts is really, really difficult. It comes through word of mouth. It comes through community and things like that. So I'm asking for you to go ahead and partner with me if you're getting any kind of value out of this whatsoever. Of course, all of the YouTube stuff, like the video, comment if you're enjoying it, subscribe if you're able. All of those kinds of things are important. But really and truly, let's share this with people who we know, who we want to help take another step into being formed into the kind of person. For me, I want to be formed into the image of Jesus over a long haul, over a lifetime. That's what I'm going after. And I'm hoping that in the process, you are able to do that as well. So I cannot wait to see you in episode 1 and 2 and all of the ones after that. I'm praying it's a blessing for you, but I can't wait to see you. Have an amazing day. Grace and peace, my friends. We'll see you in the next one.